we made someone's day so much that they decided to like give us an authentic replica of Jon Snow's sword. It instilled a different kind of motivation. You don't have to move to these expensive cities to be able to do this kind of thing. We were doing something greater than we could fathom by helping people out and doing this.
What's the key to growing subscribers on YouTube? From South Bend to Evansville and everywhere in between, this is Get In, the show focused on the Hoosier State and the incredible stories happening here today. I'm Nate Spengel, founder of Get Indiana, and I will be your host for today's conversation. Before we get into it, just a reminder, this episode of Get In is brought to you by Cluster Truck, Indy's go-to delivery kitchen. If you haven't tried Cluster Truck yet, you are missing out. They have over 100 menu items, everything from hand-stretched pizza to tacos, salads, breakfast burritos, and my personal favorite, their pad thai add chicken. They've got something for everyone, plus delivery is always free. Now here's the best part. If you order right now, by the time this podcast is over, your Cluster Truck order will already be at your door. It's that fast. So whether you're catching a game or just too busy to cook, head to clustertruck.com, order now, and use code INDY, I-N-D-Y, at checkout for 20% off orders of $25 or more. Trust me, your stomach's gonna thank you. Reminder, that code is INDY, I-N-D-Y. Now let's get into the episode. Today, I'm joined by Serge Chowdhury, founder of the Normies. He attended IUPUI, where he first found a love for film, pop culture, and community. With a passion for connecting people through storytelling, Serge launched the Normies in 2015, a channel that is now almost to 1 million subscribers and gets millions of views a month. Over the years, Serge and his team has grown the Normies to cover everything from reaction videos and vlogs to original sketches and podcasts, drawing in fans from across the globe. Today, we're going to be talking about building a YouTube channel in Indiana and just entertainment in the Hoosier State in general, as well as some behind the scenes and the fun property they have up on the north side of Indianapolis that I got to check out. That is, I mean, it's incredibly fascinating. So, Serge, welcome to Get In.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, when I first got connected, we were at the Duel premiere.
Yeah.
And like, you guys were down in front of me, and I was like, I heard you guys talking about YouTube, and I was like, oh, maybe some out-of-state LA YouTubers came to the premiere. That's sick. And then as we started to talk, it was like, no, they're here on the north side, up in Hamilton County, right?
Yep, essentially downtown Fishers.
Yeah, up in Fishers, you guys have like a whole like studio house.
We finally we bought an entire house and just turned it into all the rooms we would need for everything we do on the channel now.
And I think that it's important to know, like, yes, it is YouTube, which like any of our older audience that might be listening, we still love you guys, but like, this isn't just like one guy in his garage, like streaming Twitch. This is 16 people that have built a really big brand around the Normies.
Yes, that is always what I have to explain to people, right? And that it's not just me in my parents' bedroom. Humble beginnings though, right? It starts somewhere. So I have to explain to people like, yeah, we have a W-2 employees on the payroll. There's 401k benefits. They're like, oh, okay. All that stuff, all the normal sounding
like you're
stuff.
You're a company.
Yeah, okay, so you're an actual company.
And it's like, I do think that is the one where it's fun and you can grow a brand anywhere. But it's like if you were in LA, like, oh, there's tons of channels that are businesses,
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit, I don't know if I know that many of them here in Indiana. So that's why I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. Yeah. But before we get into all the fun stuff and the growth and like the success you've seen now, we have to start from the beginning.
Sure.
So you were not originally on the track to be a YouTuber.
Not at all, actually. I mean, my passion was always in video production, but I went in pharmacy school, IUPUI. Dropped out my first semester.
So you made it one semester.
I made it about one semester, and I was doing pretty good too. I was A's and B's type of student, but the passion was not there. It's just I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do, and so I just let myself not go to classes. It was the worst kind of student I'd ever been. Like throughout high school, I was never skipping classes or anything like that, and here and there, senioritis. But in college, dropped out pharmacy school, and then I went back to try it again. Dropped out that semester as well. So now,
wait, so 2 semesters in a row, you're like, nah, dude, this is not for me.
Yeah, the second semester was really when I was like, all right, I can't do this.
Were you doing anything else? Like, was something else taking your time or your attention? Or were you just like, nah, I just don't want to do this?
I was always basically ingratiating myself in anything video related, in any project, whether it was something I was doing with my friends, like little sketches on the side, or I became president of the Indian Student Association there at IUPUI. And I would do
You became
videos.
president within the first semester, but he's like, yeah, but I also hate going to school.
Yeah, but I dropped out too, so it was a weird. I knew the previous president, and she was like, I think you do good with this, and I'm not the best Indian person I know. Like I'm quite Americanized, but I knew enough. And using that organization, I would make videos for the events we would throw and screen it in front of audiences and stuff. So that was a nice way for me to get feedback directly from the stuff I was doing. And just leaning into that more, I knew this is where my passion lies.
Well, when did you post your first YouTube video?
Ooh, not on this channel, but first YouTube video, I think around when the platform first came up in like
How old were you?
06, 07, I must have been 14.
14. What was the video about?
Oh,
You never forget your first.
It was about how MySpace sucks, and I was doing like a selfie. I was like, Facebook is way cooler than MySpace. Like MySpace is lame now. It's the most cringeworthy video. It's still up there. My nose is huge. I got the forehead acne going, man. It's embarrassing, but that was what it was. That was the first foray into I can create something, upload it, and here it is. It exists.
And how many people watched it in the beginning when you uploaded it?
Oh, that video? Like 10 people, like my cousin, like people I know. Now people go back onto my personal channel after Normies, and they're like, "Oh my God, look how little you are." And so it's funny seeing people going back to find that video now.
Sometimes you hear people like post one and get like lucky, and like you get some early traction, and that's like what keeps them hooked in. Is like, oh, people are seeing this. But when you're not getting a ton of views, like, why did you decide to keep posting on YouTube?
I was always fascinated with just sharing my life, and like I would do these vlog style videos with like some of the people you met, Mickey, Pat. These are like Chris, other people that are now Normies. We'd been friends for a while, so I would do these weird little vlog videos of us going to parties and stuff. Nothing that's appropriate to show now. All those videos are privated, but it was my first foray into like creating something that people were hyped to see because people really wanted to watch it. And so my friends and I got really used to letting our guard down on camera and just kind of being ourselves, which I think was like the first stepping stones into being able to not have a filter now on camera. Like by the time we actually started the legit channel 10 years ago, everyone was already very much used to me throwing a camera in their face.
No, that's pretty fun. Yeah. So you got them used to it. And so you drop out of school for the second time.
Yeah.
You had to go get a job,
or you're like academic probation. I can't enroll back. Yeah, I was working at a liquor store at the time.
Just like behind the counter?
Just behind the counter at a liquor store, and I would be editing stuff that I was working on, like on the laptop there.
And so a lot of times they say like you have to have like a niche or a thing. Like mine is very much Indiana. Like everything Indiana is what I want to be involved in. But like, what was your early niche?
I think I was always into the entertainment industry. So whatever movie or show people were talking about, if I was watching that particular show, be it Game of Thrones at the time, like I was immersing myself into the online conversation, seeing what other people were doing. And being a citizen of YouTube for so long, even when it's like very early days, citizen of the internet, citizen of YouTube, I saw what people were doing with reaction videos and how that was kind of becoming a trend. They all looked pretty crappy back then, like fuzzy webcam quarter style, horrible sound. One person just kind of sitting there. And with me, my friends and I, we already would meet up to like watch things together, like the Breaking Bad finale. We would have like a big watch party, and we were already just doing this. We just weren't recording it. And so when I saw that was a trend going along, I had done so many YouTube videos before, but then I thought like, oh, this is one that if I just stuck a camera in front of my friends, I do think we're way more entertaining than this one person that's just sitting there super silently the whole time. Because there's like 6 or 7 of us sometimes on the couch. You're going to find a personality that you sort of glom onto, or that you're like, oh, I like that guy. That guy is me. Or like, oh no, that girl is me. She's sad, sitting there quiet the whole time in the corner. So it ended up gradually, like I just stuck a camera there and kept it in that living room type of atmosphere of like, you're just hanging out with us. Like we're your friend group. A lot of people send us mail. They're like, you remind me of my friend group from college. I don't get to see them anymore. Or like, hey, I live here. I don't have anyone to talk to about like Game of Thrones or like The Boys, whatever they're watching. And it's cool that I get to watch an episode and now I get to check in with you guys. And it kind of where the their surrogate group. I know it's a lot of strange.
It's like they're living
internet
vicariously
relationship.
through you. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely internet relationships, right? So Game of Thrones is ripping, and you're just filming reaction videos, doing that kind of thing. But like, you are all working different jobs. Like, this is just like a fun hobby.
Yeah.
And when did you decide, like, hey, I think this is the thing that I want to do? How many viewers? How many subscribers? What was like the momentum of the channel that got you the courage to, one, tell your parents that you weren't going to finish college, and two, start a YouTube channel full time in the middle of Indiana?
I did end up getting off academic probation. I went back to college with the focus in video production. So I ended up doing 4 years of a bachelor's degree in what they call informatics there, because there's no film school at IUPUI. It's just called IU now. I ended up finishing up 4 years there, gaining some knowledge in these types of cameras here, like these DSLRs. Like, I was using a freaking camcorder back in the day. So it did help me gain some knowledge and get some contacts. 2 years out of college, I'm working at a marketing firm, and I'm the head video guy in their marketing department. So I'm doing these, what we call A/B-roll edits for companies, where they're explaining what we do. It's like, oh, we're the insurance company. We sell your insurance.
And like, cut to video of a
Look,
nice handshake.
They're
or
doing
whatever.
insurance. Look
Yes.
at them doing all the insurance. And yeah, it's stuff like that. And it was very simple work for me. Then on the side, I'm editing Normies content. And so it wasn't until about a year after just uploading reactions to Game of Thrones, some other things, Walking Dead at the time. It wasn't until a year or so of that I decided that I saw the path of, like, if I want to see this grow further, I have to leave my job. And I wasn't being paid anything by Normies at that point. I saved up some money because I was filming weddings at the time too. I've just always been grinding with videos. And so I had enough saved up that I feel like I could coast maybe 6 or so months just going all in on the channel. It was at that time where it did actually kind of explode into something that allowed us to leave all of our jobs one by one at a time. It started with me. We created a Patreon, which is basically...
What year is this?
This is 2016.
2016, you were on
like
Patreon?
October 2016, like a little over a year after.
Before you left your job, how many subscribers did your channel have?
Less than 20,000.
Okay, but that's fairly good.
It is. It's like a start to show, like, well, if that's what I can do while working a 40-hour-a-week job, like, what can I do when all my resources are pulled into
Like,
this
in
now?
startup terms, you have traction.
Yeah.
You have traction, product market fit. People are liking the content, but you're not like, you're getting paid $0.
Exactly. We're $0. We weren't in the adolescent phase yet, if you want to call it the development.
And what was like the milestone? You're like, I'm going to quit my job. I have 6 months and I have to get to X. What's the milestone you're looking for?
The Patreon had started at that point. You go by membership and you go by how much money you're bringing in per month on Patreon. And at the start, it was like, we're bringing in $400 a month. And once it got to like 400, I was like, not much, but like that's enough for me to be like, if I can get that number to triple at least with all my time going into this, like, that would be satisfying enough for me.
And for those that might not know what we're talking about, can you give like a definition of, or like an overview of Patreon and YouTube and how they all interact and work together?
For sure. So YouTube's where you go to watch all your videos and whatever content you like. Patreon is a separate website where we host our YouTube videos on there as well, but people can pay us monthly. Their choice, depending on the tiers we have. We have like a $5, $10, $25, $100 tiers. Our most popular tier is the $10 tier. This is where the bread and butter comes in. Where it's like we're watching shows episodic, and so we're posting once a week for each show. The Patreon allows our paid members to watch early access, so like multiple weeks ahead of time, if they want to not wait a month for this episode of this anime that they're really liking to come out. Like, oh, I'll just pay $10 and, get this membership going. And then
watch it the next day or whatever.
Watch it now or the next day. And then they just kind of keep on there because there's a bunch of other offerings we have. We do like live Q&A sessions. We have an exclusive podcast on there. So the idea is to like bring them there to pay monthly and then keep them.
And what was
there.
the original launch on Patreon? Like, what did you offer? Like, did you always have the 5, 10, 15?
It was etchings of that. We had the 5, 10, but we only had we were only offering a 1 week of early access because it was at that point just me with a MacBook, like editing everything we were doing just on this tiny computer. And so, yeah, everyone had their own job. So we would just film on Sundays, just cram everything in like a 12-hour day, like watch and film as much as we can. We would do skits and sketches also, like SNL style stuff. It just finally grew. I believe it was a show called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, yes, Aang, come on.
Yes, of course. That show, we had never watched it as kids, and that show was getting a resurgence. And how we partly of how we choose what we watch is we poll our paid members, like, what do you want us to see? They were all clamoring for Avatar: The Last Airbender. We're like, what is this show? Like, this is Nickelodeon. Like, we're not, it's
we're
kids,
adults.
it's a
We're
kids
grown.
show. Yeah, and so a lot of us we watched it for the first time, and that ended up being the thing that was just propelled our Patreon. I doubled, tripled, like that number went like 8 times the original within a couple of months.
So you go from $400 to $3,200 a month or whatever in a couple months of reviewing or like watching Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Essentially.
Heck yeah. Okay, and then you start to get like, what are your parents saying at this time? Like you just quit your job and they're like, Serge, what are you doing?
Man, they have no idea what I'm doing. I try to explain it to them, but they're just like, be very careful. Like, are you still filming your weddings? Are you still doing that, like, the other stuff? I'm like, yeah. It was slowing down. I wasn't really. There's a couple times I had to borrow some money from my dad, which shamefully was like, times are tough back then, but it was just enough to get me over the edge to be able to do this.
Was that a hard conversation to have?
That is a very hard conversation to have.
What did your parents want you to be?
They wanted me to just be self-sustaining. Like whatever I was doing, whether that was being a pharmacist or a doctor or lawyer, they viewed all the video stuff as a hobby. It's like, Serge, go to school, get yourself some like security, and then on the weekends after work, if you want to do this video stuff, you can do that. And it just didn't sit right with me that I would have to be doing something that I literally just hated to do or just felt like was not my passion,
And I think a lot of times this gets watered down of like, go chase your passion. And it's like a lot of people like want to chase their passion, but they don't want to like hustle. And you have to have a balance of both, right? Like you got to be willing to do the 12-hour Sundays to like get to a point where you're like, you know what, I can do this. And like, just because you're chasing your passion doesn't mean you get to work 40 hours a week on your passion. You got to work 80 hours a week on your passion if you really want to make something that's like a non-traditional pathway work.
Exactly. Like you get a lot of people, a lot of kids that hear I'm a YouTuber and they're like, that's what I want to do. Like this is a viable career option now for the next generation. So I always try to hedge their expectations a little bit. It's like I still went to college. I minored in business like while I was there. So there's plenty of stuff you need to learn in the educational space to be able to do things like this. I'm sure as well, just starting this up and getting this up and running.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of really good creators, but I think the difference is of like the creators that also have the business behind it. I was like to like actually make money. Because I think a lot of times like people get to 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, or say you're at 20 and you're like, well, I'm still not making any money. Yeah. Like it's like just because you have the subscribers doesn't mean you get paid.
Exactly.
Like now there's monetization and stuff, but it's like when you're at 20,000 subscribers, you probably know YouTube, like the economics behind it. If you had 20,000 subscribers and no Patreon, like what would that be bringing in?
Oh man, just from Google AdSense alone, which is like the 5-second skippable ads that you get pennies on the dollar for. With 20K subscribers, it depends on how many views you're getting per video, but let's say you're getting 20,000 views, $20 or $30 a video. Like
put that into perspective, right? It's like you get, when I think 20,000 is a lot of YouTube. If you have 20,000 YouTube subscribers, like you're doing well, you have some traction, but it's not like you get to 20,000 and you're like, okay, now I like I think I'm at like 35,000 ish on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I might post and it's like a little over $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So you can't live
TikTok,
on that.
The shorts are even a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
Like how much, that's why you rely on sponsorships and that sort of thing.
Yes.
But a lot of people, maybe doing this don't have that personability or that, those communication skills to be able to negotiate sponsorship deals or
and
things
go out
like
and sell
that.
something.
You still have to be able to present yourself publicly and you can't just shut in and record videos all day.
So was Patreon like, you're like, this is the way, like we're just going to invest in growth.
Sure.
Top of funnel is the YouTube and then we'll funnel them to Patreon and you're at $3,200, which is a good living, but you can't employ how many creators, how many friends were in your group?
Even at the start, we had like 8 or 9 people that were just coming, just donating their time just to help see this thing through fruition. Like,
okay.
Very thankful for all of them.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and now it seems to have paid off, right? So you're at 8 or 9 people are helping on the channel. You're working on it full time. And what was like the next milestone that you hit?
We opened up a P.O. box. People could send us stuff because we were seeing, this is what YouTubers do. They have a P.O. box. People send them like gifts and fan mail. And so we decided to do that. I think the first unboxing we had, like someone sent us like an authentic replica of a sword from Game of Thrones, like Jon Snow's sword or whatever. And we were just so, because we looked it up, it's like $1,600 online. And we were just so in awe and shock that someone would care to send us something that valuable.
Yeah.
It instilled a different kind of motivation in us. We were like, we made someone's day so much that they decided to like give us this present, you know? I think that sword, like hung it up on the wall, like use it as motivation. Like, look at this. Like, let's just keep fucking marching forward.
Like there's
I'm
real
sorry.
people. No. You can cuss.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. This is not a PG
Okay,
show. All right.
gotcha.
No, I think it's powerful that it shows, and I have to like kind of check myself sometimes where it's like just because the number is getting bigger and you start to get some ad dollars or whatever coming in, it's like there are real people behind that, and it's like, when you can post a video that like pumps somebody up or like makes them feel like, oh, my town or my favorite show, or there's just like, it's like a real entertainment value and a real like relationship being built through the internet. It's crazy.
100%. Like we were talking earlier about the parasocial relationships, like that. So much of what we do where we get fan mail, like we just love the handwritten letters. Like they're always telling us a sad story, one or the other, if they lost somebody or like they're going through a depression, or it was COVID, you know, it was pandemic time and they watched our content to help them get through a rough week. Or it's like, oh, like I lost a spouse and like you guys remind me of her because we used to watch the show together, and that kind of stuff where I'm just like, man, I would never have thought of that when we sat down to start doing this, just watching TV together as friends. Like, would never have considered that that is an effect we could have on someone, like on real people. So when we started to see like what we were doing was maybe a little bit greater than the sum of our parts, we were doing something greater than we could fathom by helping people out and doing this. So I'm at the 3,200 a month on Patreon, and able to convince my roommate at the time to like he's running a yogurt shop, like a frozen yogurt shop. So he's like, yeah, I'm ready. And so we just kind of split it down the middle to get him on board, so I have more help, because the volume in which things were being requested to us was starting to limit how much I could do. And so,
and they're like, they want you to watch 10 different shows and it's like you actually want to be authentic and like watch this whole thing and
be excited
give a
about
good
it.
react, and like, cause especially early on, I feel like this is a lot of creators' dilemma. It's like they hit a milestone and they kind of sell out.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, oh, you get to 20,000 subs and all of a sudden like you're acting like you're Jake Paul or Logan Paul or whatever. And it's like, no, you're not. You still are on your grind. You're on your rise. Like, stay true, make good content, and like keep stacking on the subscribers and the views.
For sure. Always innovate, like never be satisfied with what's done, which can almost be an unhealthy grinding mentality, but that's the society we live in.
I mean, when you want to build something special, right?
Exactly.
Like, you don't grow to 16 full-time employees and almost just a hair under 1 million subscribers by like one video concept, and it's like, oh yeah, we can just post the same reaction every single week for 5 years and it's gonna work. Like, no, you have to innovate.
For sure, innovating, and whether that's like behind the scenes, like the equipment we use, like the tech or the style of editing, like how clear are our cameras, like slowly, bit by bit. We were doing this, actually started in my bedroom at my parents' place. When I moved in with Mickey, my roommate at the time, we were just filming it in our apartment living room, and that was a little bit of a mess because there was no work home life separation for me, but it made things easier to grind out in those early stages.
Man, that is okay. So you have 2 guys working on it full time for $1,600 a month, roughly.
Yeah.
And then what was you just keep on growing? Like, when YouTube went on it, what Patreon was at 32, and how many subscribers were you guys at?
We're nearly, I think we had passed 100 at that point.
That's impressive.
That was nice. Yeah. But
and what do you think the strategy, like what's the key to growing subscribers on YouTube?
If you cultivate some kind of community, I think that's one of the ways. There's obviously so many different ways. Consistency is key with the algorithm. Going on another side tangent real quick, YouTube itself has changed so much since it's come out on what works for it, like how the algorithms work for you. That's why it's such a hard space to get into, because by the year it is just completely changing what works for you, or like what it needs. Sometimes it's focusing on watch time, sometimes it's focusing on views or retention, but now it's like a little bit of an amalgam of all those things. So we started cultivating this community, like I said in the unboxing.
And where did the name Normies come from?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if you're familiar with The Walking Dead. There was Walking Dead, and then there was an after show called Talking Dead, hosted by Chris Hardwick.
Yes.
And so when I originally made the channel, we were doing Game of Thrones, so I called it Talking Thrones. So I was like, oh, I'll just rip off of the Chris Hardwick idea. It's my friends and I were just talking about Game of Thrones. So nearing the end of that season, we were watching, and people kept like, this was all organically done, with all the comments just telling us like, keep doing this, keep doing this. We wanted to keep doing it, but the comments telling us to keep doing it helped. And they said, like, do other shows. And obviously you have your haters there that were like, oh, whatever, you guys don't know what the F you're talking about. It's like, cool content, too bad you're a bunch of fucking normies. And I was like, I was my first time hearing that word. And I was like, what does that mean? What's a normie? I looked it up, and it's like derogatory. It's supposed to be a slur for someone who just consumes content at the most surface level of intention. Like if you watch a Marvel movie, but you haven't seen all the other Marvel movies.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You're a normie. You're a normie fan. And we're like, oh, well, what's so bad about that? That's like saying like we're just the average person. And like the average person should be marketable for any movie and show. Like you shouldn't have to be all in on a fandom, or you shouldn't have to have encyclopedic knowledge about Star Wars to watch Star Wars as a normie. So we just embrace the term because like, yeah, we watch shit for its surface level sometimes. Who cares? Like that's what entertainment's for. And that's how we kind of wore an insult as our armor, essentially.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I love seeing the haters in the comments, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, it's
one.
like, oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I wonder if that guy looks back and is like, man, look what they've become.
I gave him that name.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so things are rolling. Who is the next person that joined the team full time?
It was Mickey, my roommate. We were splitting, and then Chris. I don't know if you met Chris. He was in the last the Talking Normies podcast. He jumped on.
Okay.
I went to college with him. And so it was the three of us because we had the most editing prowess amongst the team. Everyone else, that's not what they did. Nevi's into financial. Rena was like selling cars. So everyone was doing vastly different things. The three of us actually had a media background, so we were just churning out these edits as quickly as we could. As time goes on, that Patreon number just kept snowballing. Like we were adding shows, being smart about what we were adding and trying to pull people on like what's hot right now. Not pigeonholing ourselves, because at first we were like, we're not going to watch anime. None of us watch anime. And we're like, oh, well, we're normies. Like they'll probably want to see normies watch anime. People that don't know shit about it. That turned out to be a good investment because people are like, oh, it's fun to see people like you watch anime. And so we had a healthy amount of live action shows and a healthy amount of anime shows that just would snowball that number. We hit the point of where we're like, okay, this is as much as we can watch at a time, as much as we can do with sketches and podcasts and such.
What kind of sketches?
So sketches we would do before big episodes of shows. We would kind of film a parody of the previous week's episode. So like we had like all those Game of Thrones swords. Like we would just do like a funny like Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen skit where like we were dressed up and doing like goofy cave drawings. So like people liked us doing silly accents and stuff. Like as close as I can call it, like SNL style, just parodies of what we were watching. So that helped too because it differentiated us from just the normal reaction channels. People will click on it just expecting to see what they always see from the the overexposure of these types of channels on the internet. When they click on us, they see like a little sketch or something that makes them laugh, and they're like, oh, that's different. Let me subscribe to this. And so we would use that to gain momentum. And to do it, you got to push these videos out as soon as these shows come out. Like if something aired yesterday, back in the day, we would have put it out yesterday. But nowadays, we put it out today, the next day. It's really important to stay as up to date as possible. So we just got better and better at doing that, meeting up a little bit more, not on Sundays, doing some weekday evenings. We could pay ourselves to stay during the day more. We just gave ourselves more time to film. And each month, there'd be a drop of people being like, I'm not supporting this anymore. Like, oh, I got what I wanted. I'm not going to spend any more money. But also at the start of each month, it would be an incline that would be greater than the drop. So it was a lot of like staggering. Each month a drop, but then a rise, and then it just kept doing that until we've gotten to this foreseeable future here we have today.
Yeah, and so give us a scope for how big things are today.
Today we have 15 employees, 5 full-time editors. 3 of them are remote. One of them lives in Australia, actually.
So does that help? Where you just send everything over there, and it's like, okay, in the morning we wake up and it's ready to rock.
Exactly. That's the exact reason. Like you said, like if something premieres at 9 p.m. yesterday and we decide, all right, this is big enough, like Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight happening this Friday. If we decide we're going to react to it, it's at, I think, 8 or 9 p.m. We would send it to a hottie in Australia. And with his time zone, he would be able to edit it like afternoon his time. And by the time he's done, it'll be morning Saturday, our time. So it's hard to think of stuff like that, logistics, with like a small company running it. But yeah, that helps tremendously. For sure, having people be remote like that.
Oh yeah, so 5 full-time editors,
5 full-time
10
editors,
on-screen
we're
personalities.
About 7 on screen now with a few part-time. Because we still have some people that are a part of it, but not every day. Like they just come for some shows. So 7 on-screen personalities, and we have 1 manager behind the scenes that basically Shelby. She will post everything we do because we post 2-3 videos a day on YouTube, and then we have it on Patreon as well. So she's just there to make sure everything's going out to the right platforms and communicating.
Which is so, it doesn't seem like a big job. And as I've like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and it's a lot. It sucks.
It is.
It's hard.
Because we were all wearing these hats. Like we were all sharing these hats until we could finally say like, no, this is a person. This is a person's job. Like, let's just get someone and like make our lives a little bit easier. It sounds stupid. Like, oh, we're hiring someone just to post videos. She does more than that, but it is such a huge weight off of our backs, and it's kind of like what we've been working towards, right? Like we don't want to keep doing everything ourselves.
Sometimes it's like taxing. Like I think like I'll like film a video and like edit it and like go through all that stuff and like I feel like this is really great, and then I get to like the captioning piece of it or like the final details of like what to tag, and like I'm so drained at that point where I'm like, I'll just post it tomorrow, whatever. Like, and it's like, damn, if I just had the same energy that I came into the beginning of the video with, then it would be like fun when you're like actually clicking send, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like these little things that seems like such a first world problem, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have to post my video to my followers.
It's like, oh my God, what SEO, what keywords do I use? But like that's all part of it though. I mean, you give it to another set of eyes too, to see like, oh well, yeah, I didn't think about that. We should definitely include this thing. Like you can't do it all yourself. In the beginning, I was all about doing it all myself and like seeing it through till uploading and everything, but you got to gradually give up control. Some things will get lost through the cracks inevitably, but you just work to fill those in as best as you can.
So 5 editors, 7 on-screens, a manager, some behind the scenes. What's the reach we have currently, and what are the milestones on the horizon?
We're looking to hit 1 million by next year, like sometime next year. We want to have our 10-year anniversary party and our 1 million subscriber party around the same time. We've taken the Midwest kind of because there's a couple other channels out here that do what we do, and we've collaborated with them and been able to capitalize on this market. Whenever we go to California or New York, just for visiting conventions or whatnot, we are always recognized just multiple times. Just bigger cities, denser populations. So we want to do more collaborations with channels out in LA, New York as well. Right now, we're at the point where we're reaching different audiences through collaborations with bigger to similarly sized channels.
Have there been points along the 10-year journey where it stagnated and it's been like, what do we do to like, you know, we're losing subs. What do we do?
Yeah, that can be scary. I mean, COVID initially was scary because we were like, fuck, we're not gonna be able to film indoors. We had to find a way to like film on our couches separately, and then our editors stitched together the shots. It was insane, but weirdly COVID ended up doing really well for us because people were looking for content. But there are times when there's just no good TV. Like even lately, it hasn't been as stellar of like the golden age of television that people have been talking about.
Yeah, like I think the biggest one right now is Yellowstone, probably. Yellowstone came back out Sunday.
Yeah.
So like that, and like people are pissed off. Spoilers: main character gets the axe 5 seconds in the new series, like or the new season.
That would upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So I see that, and like when things are starting to stagnate, or like you're like a little worried, like what do you do as a team? Like how do you find a way to bust out of that?
Try to go back to basics and just get really good at what we are doing and the things we are watching, and just focus in on like our friendship aspect more, because they're coming to us for the show, or movie or music video, but they're staying for the friendship. Like we try to have fun. Like that's the main thing. Like it becomes monotonous and becomes a job. But if we stop having fun, that's when it all kind of comes apart. So we try to highlight that. All the other things besides reactions we do, the sketches, the podcasts, and the little games and stuff, we like do that for the purpose of having this other type of content that can exist, you know, evergreen without something accompanying it. So we'll put some more focus in on that as well. I think, yeah, it's mostly just kind of, if we see it stagnating, almost like scaling back and bolstering what we do have and making what's good or great excellent, rather than like trying to flood out more content.
I think when a lot of people see like YouTuber as a job, they're like, oh my gosh, this person gets paid to have fun. Like, so lucky.
Yeah.
And like, is there ever a time where it doesn't feel fun and it does feel like a job?
Oh, yeah. I mean, watching TV with your friends is definitely, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, this is a fun job, 100%. But it's also hard to complain to people. Like, to you, probably. You have probably similar concerns, similar issues. Like, I don't want to hit these hashtags at the very end of the publishing. But like for your average Joe, I can't really complain to my neighbors about it.
Your buddy's like swinging a sledgehammer and like a concrete, whatever, like construction job. And you're like, oh man, I can't believe I have to put these hashtags. And they're like, dude, like, go get out of here.
I got this arthritis, like my fingers all day. Yeah, it's a little cumbersome where it feels monotonous, and like we said, like we're going into business with friends, and so we want to make sure we're having fun.
I wanted to give a huge shout out to our newest partner, Hope Plumbing. Now, Hope Plumbing serves Indianapolis and the surrounding areas when it comes to all things plumbing, obviously. That includes sewer and drain, water heaters, water softeners, leak repairs, sump pump, gas lines, plumbing inspections, reverse osmosis system installation, router services, downspout installation, and septic tanks. What don't these guys do? Whenever I have trouble, I make sure to call Hope Plumbing. They always do a great job on my house. They're going to do a great job on your house. Go to hopeplumbing.com to check them out.
One of the bigger things we did was, I don't know if they talked to you about this, is we started doing group therapy with the 7 of us that are on screen. I mean, we're friends and we're coworkers. We see each other a lot. Not often, but sometimes things will build up, like some resentment or some passive aggression here and there. If like someone didn't do something, it's like, oh, you're constantly coming in late. Or whether or not it gets squashed there, sometimes it builds up. And when we have therapy once a month, where all 7 of us are there with our group therapist, essentially. His name is Patrick. He's great. And it just allows us a floor to get all that stuff out. So we have no awkward instances, in the workplace. And it's helped a lot, actually. I will say it's been tremendous to be able to just like vent in a what we feel is like a nice setting where nothing's going to come back to bite us or whatever. And then, the slate is wiped clean, and then we can go to work and just ball like we do.
Because, I mean, your guys' relationships are so important. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like if people start falling, I mean, you see like when great television shows fall apart, it's like Kevin Costner doesn't want to come back and do the final season of Yellowstone. It's like, what the hell, man?
Or you hear like the Sex and the City girls like don't like each other, or like Carrie was taking, what's her name?
This is your wheelhouse.
Desperate Housewives. There are some like shows where the cast didn't get along or something, and then you have to show up and be with that person every day. But since our content is so reliant on us being good friends, like we have to make sure that stays strong. Like we're hanging out outside of work and not just seeing each other for work and then leaving,
Talk to me about the pros and cons of having a YouTube channel or just being in entertainment in Indiana versus in LA.
I guess cost of living.
I don't know if I want to show your studio, but we can show some pictures that you guys have out there in public, but like it's not small. Like what's the square footage of your guys' studio?
It's probably like 2,800
like
square feet.
It's a massive house.
It's even more than that, I think. That's just
like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? It's like it's a house.
It's like a 4.5 bed.
Like it's insane.
4.5 bath, 4 bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it's definitely big. Mm-hmm. And so it's like if you're in LA, that's like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if it's affordable.
We even contemplated the move like right before COVID hit. We were going to be moving out to LA for the same goal, going to collab with people out there. And then when we did all the price differentials and everything, it was going to multiply everything by 4 to 5, just from living expenses, driving, gas, like rentals. Yeah, it was going to be a bit. And so being able to operate in the Midwest, I think it's nice because first off, it inspires more people to be creative out here that think that otherwise might not be an option to do something like what you do, the Get In podcast or like Normies, or I mean, we have the true crime podcast over here too.
Yeah, Ashley Flowers and Crime Junkies.
Yeah, for sure. We got Hank Green. And so it's good to be able to show people that you don't have to move to these expensive cities to be able to do this kind of thing. So I do like the inspirational aspect of that.
If you had to say if there were some limitations or like what do you feel like where does it hurt you?
I think it hurts when more unorthodox when we're out and about filming things on camera or going on location. Whereas in LA, you see people with cameras out all the time. Like, oh yeah, that's just, I guess, par for the course. Down here, we have to kind of explain to people what we're doing. It's like, it's okay if we film right outside here. We're not going to get your face. Or having to explain to people what you do, that sort of thing. Like,
yeah. Oh, and I always feel like such a loser when I like set up a camera on a tripod because I don't have a camera team right now. So it's just like me, and I'm like out front of like, this is a hidden gem in Indiana.
So what, you doing a TikTok, huh?
Yeah,
you doing a freaking TikTok?
You're one of those TikTok bros, dude. Like, your hair's not even puffy. What do you mean?
That's
and
hilarious.
I'm just like, I'll give the story. It's like when I met my girlfriend's family for the first time, and I had just quit my job, and they're like, just feeling of like, I like post on social media, but like people actually watch. Like, it's a real thing. Like, I make money, I promise.
They're like, sure.
And then they had their big festival down in Oldenburg. It's called Freudenfest. It's a German festival, and I like made a video, and it got like 100,000 views, and like everyone in their community was sharing it on Facebook. And it was like, they're like, oh, this is what you do. And I was like, yes, but usually people pay me to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So it just was like this like rite of passage where I like proved myself, right? Like, it's not just a hobby. It's like a real job. I promise.
You ever get recognized from someone in front of them?
Oh yeah. It's like such a power move.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They just recognize me from my job that I do. No big deal.
Exactly. My job, I make money and I get paid. Like, yes. By the way, if there are any advertisers out there, like, we'd love to continue to grow this so there's more than just Nate. So let me know. There are some pros and some cons. I do think cost of living is like, you can build this awesome studio and not lose an arm and a leg. But then it is so unique, but you can also use that as a benefit, right? Where it's like, because you are a huge YouTube channel built in the Midwest, like, I think it does give you, if you harness it, a little bit of an edge, right? Where there's not that many competitors, where it's like, you know, if you're down filming on the circle, people are like, oh my gosh, they're famous. Like, they're actually
like,
here.
These
like,
people, like, they have fancy equipment. Where in LA, it's going to be like, oh, this is just another Tuesday.
Yeah.
I mean, the downside being, like, we don't have as many people we can collaborate together here. Like, there's you and I. We're very different legs of this forever evolving industry.
Yeah. Like, because it's from the service level, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are both creators. They work the same, but it's like if you sell health insurance and I sell car insurance.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, we both sell things.
We both sell. Yeah. Like, there's
Car
insurance in the name of it, but it's not like, it's you are watching TV and reacting to it, and I talk about things going on in Indiana. It's But like, to the average, 65-year-old Hoosier, it's like, they just are internet boys.
Yeah.
Classic.
It's the same multiverse, I guess, because there's several universes here in social media landscape.
So a big thing is like, this is a career path of the future, right? Like, I think there's more kids than ever that want to grow up and be creators. What advice do you have for them?
Have a plan B. Don't put all your chips and marbles.
It's like, we're not saying don't do it, but like, just have an exit strategy.
Yeah, you can. Like, it's oversaturated as hell, right? So you have to have some unique value proposition that you're adding to this. Like,
what do you think your unique value prop is for the Normies?
I think just the fact that we've all known each other since like before high school, damn near, or high school level. And so we carry that kind of camaraderie of watching something and being able to relate to the characters and be like, oh, Chris, that's you. That's totally you. You always act like that guy. You're big, stick up your ass or whatever. Sorry, Chris. And then so we carry that authenticity of an actual friend group. Like, we're not like a cast. We didn't get cast for this role. Like, oh, you would fit well on this couch. Like, no. We're just like a group of friends.
Yeah. And I would say another would be, yes, the relationship between you all, and like an early mover. Like 10 years ago was still like pretty early on. And so it's like, you got to build that momentum and you're like a market leader. Like, oh,
for sure.
Because they do reactions and all this stuff.
It's like, oh, you're adding some sketches and skits on top of it. Like, you're differentiating yourself from the sea of normalcy that's out there.
And now it's like, as more people come into market, I'm sure it's like, it becomes harder and harder to be like, because attention is what you're fighting for, right? You're fighting for people's time. And I always say that it's like, podcasts grow really slow. Like, it takes, but once you start to like stack up your dominoes, it starts to grow faster and faster, and it's fun. Yeah. But it's like, you're giving someone, like today, we're giving them an hour of they're giving us an hour of their time.
Yeah.
That's precious.
That is very
like an
precious.
hour they could be talking to their grandma. Please don't turn off the podcast to talk to grandma yet. Do it right after the show. But like, I think that like in the game of attention, it's like never been a harder battle to fight there. Yeah. So I would say, kids, go for it all out, but like, do have a plan where if it doesn't work out, what you're going to do.
And then, definitely try to have some sort of plan. Like, throwing stuff up there at the wall can be fine if you're still figuring out what you want to do and you're kind of sussing it out. But if you're going with it, you have a plan and you're going with it, make sure that it makes sense. Like you're using some facts to back up what you're doing. It's like, oh, if I don't get to 100 subscribers by the end of this next few months, maybe I should move a different direction, or like maybe I should stop what I'm doing and try to do something else. Because I think a lot of people just try to like they're streaming for no viewers, or they're putting stuff up that no one's watching, and it sucks because you have to start from somewhere. But I would always be adaptable with what you're doing.
And I don't think, and like, we're not saying like don't do it, but it's like, okay, if you stream 5 times and no one watches, then like do something different on your stream that's gonna get views. Like there will be times where I like know the concept is good. Like some of my small town videos, like when I first posted them, they didn't get a ton of traction because you have to think like I only have 5 or 10,000 followers, and if I don't say their hometown in the first 10 seconds, like they might not watch the whole video. But now I'm at like almost closing in on 50, and it's like if I post about a small town, like people are actually interested.
Yeah.
So the concept was like not necessarily a bad concept, it was just the wrong time.
For sure.
And so a lot of people act like you're putting up polls on your story for your 100 followers, and it's like, hey, you don't have enough yet. But it's like the poll's good, like you're doing good stuff, but you just have to like do the other stuff to get to the point where like that actually works.
You got to actually acquire the masses before you can pull like on one direction you're going.
Yeah, if you were restarting your channel, or maybe not even your channel, if you were restarting as a creator today, what would you do? What would your first 3 steps be?
First off, create a separate personal social media for myself, because I just, didn't know what I was doing. My own social media is me, my brand. I would have done like a Suraj at Normie, or like _Normies Instagram, just because I get so much spam in there, like DMs, random people sending me stuff that it's hard for me to sort through my friends actually messaging me and people I don't know. Definitely work-life balance more. When it started out, drove me a little nuts for a while, but that was just the name of the game. As long as you're having fun with it still. Like I would never push yourself to the brink of complete mental exhaustion when you're doing stuff like this, because when you stop having fun on there, like people can tell, and like you're just like, what are you doing?
It's detrimental.
Yeah, it's bad.
And like if there were like platforms or opportunities that you see for creators where it's like, YouTube 10 years ago was like the way, like maybe one of the only ways, because like discovery on Instagram and TikTok like wasn't a thing, like you knew who you knew because you would meet them in person or something and follow them on Instagram, or like the word got around that like, they posted interesting pictures, right? You know how people got followers back in the day.
Yeah,
but like, what would you say today? Where do you see the opportunity is?
It's gotten more dog eat dog for sure. Like jumping on things, like if you have an opinion on something that's happening, like a world event, really jumping on that and getting on top of it as fast as you can. Like you can get circulated in that algorithm of like-minded things being discussed. Obviously, that depends on what you're going in for. Like we do movies and TV shows, so it's easier for us to jump on news like that. But it's also harder in the Midwest to, collaborate with people that are doing things like that. Like everything industry related is in LA. We had that Dylan Sprouse movie, The Duel, premiere here. And I was like, what? We have to go to that. Indianapolis never gets film premieres. Mm-hmm. So there's stuff like that. I would always network more. I think early on, if I networked more, I think it would have helped us out a lot. But having those personable skills and being able to know who around you, even just knowing that, like, if you're in Indianapolis, knowing that the Normies exist, knowing that the Get In podcast exists, helps so much. Like, and eventually talk to us, eventually get out there and, maybe we'll do a meetup. We've been wanting to do like a little tappers get together for any influencers around, like in Indianapolis, just to kind of share and give their info. Because there's so much you can learn from each other.
There's more than you know. There's some people that don't, like I wear it as a badge of honor, like I'm Indiana, but like not everyone is like so jazzed up to be like, oh yeah, I'm a creator in Indiana. From a business perspective of like, if you were restarting and you're like, hey, I want to make a living being creating. I don't want to say necessarily being a creator, but just like in the industry, what would you do?
Financially prepping myself. It's like, here's how much I'm putting in, like time and money. And he said, here's how much I expect to get out. It worked out for me this time. I was doing something that I knew was working, and I just had to get to a point where it would work for us, where we didn't have to like break ourselves to get it done. Giving yourself a plan so that you don't reach that point of complete exhaustion, I think, is the best way to go.
What happens when you're 50?
Yeah, that's the golden question we're asking ourselves. Like, are we going to be reacting and watching TV in our 50s? Like, we're already pushing 34, a lot of us, and getting to not be as cool as the Gen Z kids or like Gen Alphas now that are coming out. And so we find ourselves using lingo like saying something's cap or saying something's like AF or whatever. I don't know. Aesthetic. I don't know a lot of these things. I'm making myself cringe just saying it. But the point is we're outgrowing the main audience demographic, which is like 18 to 24. And then our next is like 25 to 40. So we're still within that range. We think the audience will grow up with us, but eventually we'd love to be able to create more original content and getting into that, like doing more of the sketches or maybe some short films. Maybe we're working on this radio play also. It's like a 6-episode narrative story told through audio, essentially, entirely. So like we're working on a lot of like fun experimental stuff like that because a lot of us are storytellers, filmmakers deep down. Even me, like I'm doing theater now because I'm trying to get into voice acting as well.
Really?
So for all of our paths, they diverge a little bit. But the idea is to get us all to be successful as individual brands like ourselves and keep doing the Normies as like the big Avengers meetup, you know. It's like you can see all of us together now. Like we're doing our own thing and being excellent ourselves, but here's all of us together.
What advice would you give me on growing as a creator?
Keep this energy up. I love this energy you have here. You're eager to meet people in the space, to learn their stories and everything like that. I think you're on the fast track here. Like this is great. Like you said, 5% every month. Like if you can do like 5% better every month, like you're good. And whether that's how you are personally, like getting some sound foam or whatever, I'm sure you like how many times you repeat doing a take or something. You know, you're out there, you're like, "Hey guys, it's Nate." And you're like, "Oh, no, that wasn't good."
Yeah, right.
You know?
And it's like, no, you can do better. Like, you know, make it because it's like this is the career. It's like you want to make sure that you're giving like. You talk about differentiators. It's like I do think the one thing that like helps set me apart, where like in Indiana, it's like energy. Yeah. Like I will just like full on scream at the camera because I'm so pumped, and I actually am. It's not like an act. Like I'm pumped up to like wake up in the morning and live life and do this thing and help promote the state and like uncover these amazing stories of people that are doing really interesting things around the state.
I love it. Like I was just looking at that one apartment complex you showed on Mass Ave. It was one that looks like a cruise ship on the corner.
Yes.
And I'm like, I finally got to see what the inside of that place looks like. And I was like, you were just as curious as I was.
Dude, and that's like half the battle. Sometimes I like drive down and like what helps is that I am like naturally curious and like I'll just like ask and like find my way to network into like whatever the thing is. And I've always wondered what it looked like. Like I had heard like Pacers players and stuff live there and I was like, well, I wonder what it looked like and how much it costs and all this stuff. So it's working out so far as long as we just keep finding. So if you have questions around Indiana and things you've always wondered about, let me know.
Oh, for sure.
We'll go uncover
I got a bunch of questions too, like about how you got started here too. Like how many years has it been since you've been doing this now?
We posted our first podcast episode like 18 months ago.
That's very good.
If you just put out the podcast clips, like nobody really cares that much. Like it takes a lot. So I would like counterbalance that with, hey, here are the first one that ever like popped was my top 3 coffee shops. And it was people calling me a moron. They're like, oh my gosh, you like Java House. Someone literally, so 2 fun ones. Someone said, move, period, to me. And I'm just like talking about my favorite 3 coffee shops in Indianapolis. Someone else said, it's people like you that's ruining the city of Indianapolis. Like,
sure.
And it got 100,000 views and I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like, I love this. It's so much fun. And I had been like the social media guy for the DePaul football team where I went to college. It was like on the student TV station and stuff and had a show then. So like, I've always like loved it, but I like went and spent 5 years in startups and tech to like figure out how to make a business out of it. And here we are. And so far so good. So things are going well.
What's something you feel like you would do differently now if you were starting it?
That's a great question. I'm always intrigued by like the Patreon or the like paid piece of it. So like people that consume my content don't really pay anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't want to like throw up a chintzy like merch shop. I don't want to like sell them stuff they don't need because I'm building trust with them and I want to like grow a brand and I really like making the videos. And it's nice that I have the business contacts to like, hey, I have this audience and, you know, people want to advertise with it because like, you know, they have marketing budgets to spend.
For sure.
I would say it's like the idea of like, oh, maybe my like most loyal 500 followers or 200 followers or whatever would pay $5 a month. Like doing something like that would be interesting. I kind of feel like I'm far enough down the free version that it'd be like, oh, wow. Like I'm not, and I don't want to like totally tank my growth.
No, for sure. Like we waited a while before we introduced the Patreon too, because like we want to just like create good content, like create stuff that people want to see first, and then kind of go down that road. And I think you're in a phenomenal place after 18 months.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And I've been doing it full time since June. So like the past 5 months or whatever have been like a roller coaster, and I'm super pumped for what the future holds. And I'm like excited. Like I'm diving more into YouTube. So if you have any advice on how to grow subscribers on YouTube, I'd love to hear it.
For sure.
Any like one big tip?
I would say like anything big that's going on in Indiana that would get any nationwide news, like I would throw that up as soon as it happens. Like stuff going on with IU football right now. The Taylor Swift stuff, you capitalized on that pretty
sick.
well. I was getting recommended your stuff like just with the concert season coming in.
It was so fun. It was wild down there. Like honestly, they talk about like All-Star Weekend, like that, the eclipse, like all that stuff was huge when it came to Taylor Swift. So I have some ideas for
on like
future stuff coming
Pat
up.
McAfee. Try to collab with Pat McAfee.
I'm working
Wouldn't
on
that
it.
be great?
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pat, when you see this video, hit me up. Let's do a little collab. We'll talk all Indiana things.
For sure.
We are down to the end of the show. I have a couple fun questions that I always like to ask all of our guests, everyone that sits in the chair. First one is our Younger Years segment. So this question is brought to you by our friends at Orr Fellowship. They're a great organization here in Indiana, helping develop young business leaders across the state. Serge, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
Start that Roth IRA right now. Just
Max
do
it out.
Just max it out
What is
right
like
now.
$6,500 a year or
Something
whatever
like
it is.
that.
Just
freaking do it. Yeah.
yeah. So that way you have a retirement to lean back on. Okay, I love that. What movie has the most epic soundtrack?
I would say Mad Max just gets me in a frenetic pace. If I'm working out and I need a quick thing to put on that I don't feel like looking for, I'll just pop on the Mad Max soundtrack.
That's how I am when I'm working in Game of Thrones, and I crescendo during the battle songs. And I'm like, yes, send that email.
Nice.
Yes. What's your guilty pleasure movie?
Pineapple Express.
Oh, that's a great one. It's like so quotable.
Seen it so many. It is very quotable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I realize I quote that movie far often.
And like sometimes people don't even pick it up. They're just like, oh, that's like a weird. And I'm like, it's my cat's birthday.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's kind of an asshole, though.
Yes. Who's your favorite content creator outside of the Normies?
Just because they're right up our alley, I would say Red Letter Media.
What are they?
They've been in it for a while. They also review movies and content and everything, but they just have a very jaded worldview, a little pessimistic, and so it can sometimes be a bummer watching them. But I laugh at their demeanor.
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
they're just
fair.
like, here we are reviewing another movie, like talking about this is Star Wars 879, basically. Talking about the monotony of the industry. So it's kind of like the opposite of what I do, which is talk about how exciting it is. But it's fun to see that side of the spectrum.
Yeah. If you had a dream collaboration with any creator, who would it be?
Any creator. Has
Or
to be an
anyone.
influencer.
Any person.
Oh, man. Damon Lindelof. He's the showrunner. He was the showrunner for Lost. He did The Leftovers as well. I think he worked on like a recent Star Trek movie. But yeah, he's a filmmaker. I would love to pick his ear. Just to
Really?
do something with it. Any project with him.
Wow. All right. We're going to clip that and put it out and see if we can get his attention.
Please, Damon. I loved the ending. Don't worry. I loved the ending of Lost.
Okay. And these are the same questions that we ask everyone. What's something that the world needs to know about Indiana?
Oh, man. We are getting 2 times better every year. I just feel like Indianapolis has been on the come up for a long time, and we are succeeding in that come up. When the next year we have like Critical Role is coming here, which like they're huge in the influencer space. Like they're doing their 10-year anniversary tour. They're going to be in Fishers in August. We got WWE Royal Rumble here coming. Like Pat McAfee did that for us, and so I love seeing it. We host the biggest sporting event every year, like in the world. So I just think that more people need to understand that Indiana isn't just that default state that you say in your story when you want someone who's from the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm from a small town in Indiana. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Thanks, Stranger Things.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Stranger Things. Indianapolis is out here, and it's constantly
Growth
blowing up.
rate. I will say the growth rate is high in Indianapolis. Like it's growing so fast. Like cool stuff is coming. New restaurants, new development, new apartments, new everything. Like
For
it's
sure.
a fun time to be in my seat because like there's no shortage. I mean, Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
There's no shortage of cool stuff to uncover in the Hoosier
And the
State.
downtown is all, every time I have friends visiting, they say the downtown's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you just walk up and down in 30 minutes, one side or the other. And it's a lot to do. It's almost like a big city downtown, but a small city walkable vibe. You know?
Yeah. Okay. What is a hidden gem in Indiana?
There is a graveyard in Greenwood that when it snows, it is the best sledding hill. The only thing is you have to be okay with sliding kind of close to people's graves, but
not on
it's not on them. No. You stop a little bit before you. It gets a little bit creepy, but that is the best spot, and I don't want to reveal it right now, but there's little hidden gems like that all over Indy.
Oh, well, so you have the Greenwood Graveyard Sledding Hill.
Yeah.
I'm sure our Southsiders will let us know.
I'm sure
about
they
that
know
thing.
where it
Oh,
is,
yeah. Someone's going to pin the address in the comments. Final question for you, Serge. Who's a Hoosier that we need to keep on our radar? Someone who's doing big things.
The entirety of PopCon, it happens every year. It's basically, we have Comic-Con also, but PopCon, I know the guys Chris and Carl that put it on, and they do a phenomenal job every year. Like, they're making that the standout nerd convention of the year for indie. And so we help collaborate with them a lot on what guests to bring and everything like that. So if you're looking for a convention to do an indie, like, I know Comic-Con has the name brand, but PopCon is the thing to look out for.
When? What time of year is it?
It is April this coming year.
Heck yeah,
29.
PopCon, April.
For sure.
Here in Indy. Are those guys local?
They are.
Chris and Carl?
Chris and Carl, they're local. They do a Louisville PopCon also, but they're mostly trying to get indie more on the map with the nerd conventions.
Heck yeah, the nerd convention. I love it. Serge, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
sharing
you
your
so
story.
much for having me.
It was super fun. And I mean, the next milestone, right? Coming up on 10 years, going to cross that 1 million subscriber mark.
yeah.
I'm pumped to see the growth of the Normies. If we ever, I think there's some room to do some collaboration and do some fun stuff in the future.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we'll both get on that Pat McAfee show.
Yes. Pat, when you see this, hit us up.
Come on, Pat. Yeah, we watch wrestling too at the Normies. So.
Yes. Oh, I think there's something around WWE for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, appreciate you. And
Thanks a lot.
thanks for coming in.
For sure. Appreciate it, Nate.
Hey everyone, quick pause in the action to introduce you to Flutterman Von Reest, a true hidden gem in Indiana, especially for all you watch aficionados out there. Founded by an Indiana State graduate from Batesville, this family-owned brand has deep Hoosier roots dating back to the 1830s. They are even proud members of the Society of Indiana Pioneers, which I didn't know existed but is a sweet organization. They are based in Indy and are redefining luxury watches. Meticulously crafted in Kokomo by a certified watchmaker and his apprentice, the designs blend classic elegance with a modern twist. Don't miss their Chase Briscoe Race Day VIP Experience giveaway, an incredible opportunity for race fans. Chase is an awesome NASCAR driver from Mitchell, Indiana. You're going to be learning more about him soon. Follow Flutterman Von Reest to explore their stunning collections and join their journey to greatness. Thank you for listening to this episode of Get In. If you like what you heard, make sure you leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This show is made possible by our friends up at Sweetwater. Whether you're looking to start a podcast or take your content to the next level, click the link in the description to see all of my gear recommendations at sweetwater.com. If you want a behind the scenes look at everything we're doing across the state, make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nate Spangle. Thank you so much for listening and being part of what makes the Hoosier State great. We'll see you next time here on Get In.